Good morning, wonderful, delightful people. How are you all today? I hope you're well. Yay, it's the beginning of April. Woohoo! So it's time for a little jaunt around the garden, obviously, because it's the start of the month. But just before we do, my goodness, what a contrast. So this time last year, I did my first ever little video tour of my garden. Can't believe it's been a year. It was bone dry last year. Bone dry, we had sunshine, all my pea sticks were up, the bunting was up. It was absolutely gorgeous. And this time last year, I was having to water my potatoes in their trenches because we were so dry. And in fact, the dryness we had in March turned into a bit of a drought last year, because I think normally if we're a bit dry in March we wouldn't be too concerned because we'd be thinking about the April showers, because April showers bring May flowers. But we had no rain in March, none in April, none for the most of May. We went 11 weeks without rain, which for us in little old Blighty, it's unheard of. So back to this year, I think the weather we've had in terms of all the rain, yeah, it's sort of normal. We have had a little bit more rain than usual. But I think what's been unusual this year, or I know what's been unusual this year, is we're still quite chilly. Now, I know there are a lot of you in the world who are going to be spitting tea at your computer screens now going, chilly? I haven't got a clue. It's all relative. So for me here, in my little microclimate of my garden, the temperatures at the moment are below average. So because of that, things are kind of late this year. I think we're about 3 or 4 weeks behind where we would normally be. But it's okay, I have faith that things will catch up. And it just means that, say with my indoor sowings, I've been kind of staggering them a bit. When I did the peppers and celeriac, I didn't know what spring was going to be like, so they went in when I would normally do them. But now, subsequently, you know, tomatoes, I'm thinking about all my squash that need to go in, cucumbers, flint corn. I'm just going to hold everything off for another couple of weeks, so no major indoor sowings now until the mid-end of April. I will start doing some sewing here for the cold frame, which I'll explain as we go around. So, yes, we're a bit behind, but in other ways, I feel really, really ahead. And I'm really, really, really proud of what I've got done this year. And I think sometimes we feel a bit sort of shy of being proud. It's not very British, but I'm going to big myself up, and I want you guys to big yourselves up too for what you've managed to get done, because looking back over the last sort of 12 weeks, those first few weeks in January I really wasn't able to do much because I was still on the crutches, and then I got rid of my crutches, I think it was 6th or 7th of February, and since then it's been full steam ahead. So although we will go into the garden in a sec, sorry I'm blabbing on, I've got my excitement back as you can tell. It doesn't look hugely different, but my goodness, it is really different. There's been a huge amount of work, and comparing with last year, you know, things like all the structural stuff, shed, it's all completely done now. I got my rack done last summer, got all my painting done last autumn, got the shelves up. I've got a few cushions to make, but you know, that's just titification, isn't it? So essentially I'm starting this year with the shed is done, don't have to think about it. The fence and deck are done, don't have to think about them. The cold frame bed, which is going to be the herb bed, still does need some work. But this time last year, it was just a mound of bags of rubble and soil that needed sifting, and there were just piles of rocks and rubbish everywhere, and then a great pile of timber that I've used for the shed and for the deck. It was mayhem at this time last year. So actually, all things considered, I think I'm ahead of the game. Plus, I've been doing it hobbling on my wonky knees. So yay! Come on, let's celebrate. That's kind of my way of saying you know, after weeks of feeling a bit like because of the weather, the greyness, and I'm starting to feel that excitement coming back. You know, I can see the shape of the garden. I'm beginning to sow a few more bits and pieces, and I cannot wait to sort of properly launch into this year once we get a bit drier. Anyway, enough of my waffle. Let's go down the garden path and see how the garden looks at the beginning of April. I just have to be a bit mindful as I walk down this path because A, I am a bit giddy today, and B, it's really slippy. I've slipped a couple of times already. Squelch, squelch, this is the worst bit. Squelch, squelch. So I'm sure a lot of you are really frustrated because of the weather and not being able to get out onto the ground. But there's still loads you can do indoors, isn't there? You know, pricking out, potting on, sowing some more seeds. But anyway, we are outdoors at the moment, so let's have a little butcher's at how the plot is looking. Yay! I think I need to, I think some of the stock, whoopsie, might be past their best. So I'm not going to hurry to pull them out because there's nothing to go in there until sort of May, June, so they can just sit there for now and see if they come back to life. But one thing I want to look at under here is absolutely zero sign of my lily coming back. You know, my tree lily that I have on the corner here? Now, this time last year, it was up a good 12 inches or so. What I'll do is I'll put a link under this to the April tour from last year so you can see. You'll have to excuse the sound quality on it. It's really, really quiet. But it will give you an idea of just how different we are this year. But here we are, bed number 1. It's pretty much done and ready. So starting off here, I've got my, as you will have seen the other day, my 6 rows of Jet Set onions in. This year I'm using labelled rocks for my plant labels in the hopes that will thwart the foxes, because in previous years when I've done wooden labels they just yank them out and chew them to bits and spit them out. So I'm hoping that'll fox the foxes. So 6 rows of white onions in. I'm going to hop over this cage for a second, and now we've got 6 rows of the reds in, and they are, oh, I see, it's going to be so useful. I'll be able to show you what I've got in. Red Baron. This bed in between them is now ready for, whoopsie, can we see through the netting? There'll be 3 rows of carrots. That'll be a sort of earlier carrot, a summer carrot, interspersed with the leeks again, and then good old, can you read it through there, good old Autumn King for my autumn and winter and spring carrots. So I'm trying this again this year of interplanting the carrots and the leeks, because according to sort of companion planting rules, they should help ward off each other's pests. However, the leaf miner here is so horrid, I'm not taking any risks, so I have enviromeshed it. So it's just some of those, what are they? I think it's water piping, isn't it, that came out of a skip. And I've just tried to, I've lashed some bamboo canes down the sides this year, just to try and make it a bit sturdier, because the foxes, even with a big cage like this, they love to jump on the top and mash the lot. The theme this year is thwart the foxes. So yeah, there's the onions, and I think the foxes have been jumping there. Can you see it's all squished? Never mind. Here, this bed underneath is ready, pretty much ready to go for the flint corn. But actually it won't be planted until, gosh, I think mid-May. It might even be the end of May this year, just because of how the weather has been. So again, if you remember when I took out some of the field bean green manure from where the potato bed now is, they got chopped up and put in a trench, covered with soil, and now they're covered in cardboard, which the worms will love. And actually I might just plant straight through the cardboard when it comes to it, because that will act as a good mulch all through the summer. No change in this bed at the moment. It's the garlic still, which will come out probably towards the end of May, beginning of June, and then in we'll go. I've got my labels ready and waiting. Celeriac and celery. Oh, I'm loving these labels. Do you know what? I kind of want to put a covert secret camera up to watch the foxes try and mash these labels. They'll break their blooming teeth, won't they? Poor things. So that bed is pretty much, that's kind of done, up and running. So I need to, the leeks are sown at home. They're getting away nicely. I'll direct sow the carrots in a couple of weeks. Flint corn will get sown in a week. But otherwise, obviously the celery and the celeriac, they're already sown for this bed. So yeah, that one is kind of almost tick, apart from actually putting the plants out. Swinging around, so this is going to be the vine bed this year. So it's going to be pretty much the last bed to come into action. But even though it's going to be the last, it's sort of ready. So here and here will be 2 rows and 2 rows of tomatoes. This section here I've added a bit of chicken poo and some wood ash, but I've covered it because I don't want the wood ash to just be completely leached by the rain. This bit I've added chicken poo, but I haven't added the wood ash yet because I don't have any more cardboard. So I'll leave that until shortly before sowing, maybe a couple of weeks before, planting. So I'll leave that for about a couple of weeks before I plan to plant, get the wood ash raked in and then cover it with cardboard so it doesn't get leached by the rain. And here I've now closhed them. This is where I've got my 4 little bits of quarters of my Rose de Berne tomato that I brought home from France, and they're my planned volunteers. Don't know if they'll do anything, but I've just closhed them just to start warming that soil up. Yay! And then I've got the bulldog clips there to stop foxes from pulling the sticks out. And on the top, because you're always talking to me about worrying about my eyeballs, on the ends I've got old cotton reels because I'm doing so much sewing. I'm actually emptying reels almost every day. What a shame they don't do wooden reels anymore. Plastic, bleh, hate it. But at least it can have another life by being a bit of an eye protector, hopefully. So yeah, these bits are pretty much ready to go. My purple sprouting broccoli is finally giving me sprouts. Oh, and they're beautiful, and what a gorgeous little bit of colour at this time of year. Absolutely scrumdiddly. They took a right battering in the winds when was it? I think it was in December when I wasn't around at all, when I was at home with me legs up. So they've gone sideways. Doesn't matter, they're still feeding me. Last few of the carrots from last year, I'll have the rest of these out over the next couple of weeks, I think. So then the section where the purple sprouting are, all the way down to almost that bit of cardboard, this is going to be some horizontally grown squash. So I'm going to have my bog standard butternuts, plus a couple of the Rouge Vif de Tombe, which was that massive Cinderella type one I had last year. I'm doing most of my squash this year vertical, but those Rouge Vif de Tombe are so massive, I don't think there's any way they're going to go vertical. And then finally this bed had the cabbage in. Again, it's prepped and ready to go. I was so excited, it's like everything's ready. All I did was I gave the soil a bit of a tickle. I've added some chicken poo. Now what I didn't add was any wood ash. So when again, like with the tomatoes, a couple of weeks before I come to plant, this is going to be a couple of rows of peppers, and then my good old frame for the cucumbers. They will both really like wood ash as well, so I'll get all this off, give it a sprinkle and a rake of wood ash, get it covered again, and then boom, a couple of weeks later, plant my plants through. If my seedlings come to anything and survive. Yay! Oh, and this is a happy sight. So I finally got the covers off the broad beans. I would normally have the cover off, a month ago, if not like longer ago than that. But because we kept having these dumps of snow, I just wanted to protect them. But I did really want to get the covers off because, let's get right in here, they're flowering. And And I want the bees to be able to get in there. Oh, in fact, look, there's a little one. Oh, I disturbed the bee. Sorry, bee. Where's it gone? It's in there somewhere. I can hear it. But yeah, now the cover's off, the bees can do their work for me, and I can do my work for them by giving them something to eat. Now, the only issue with this bed is, again, it's a fox issue. Look at this big bare patch in the middle. This is where they crushed the enviromesh down, and I think they were actually sort of lying here on top of the enviromesh as a bit of a bed. So I did sow some spare. I did have some spare seed, and they're just coming up. Can you see? But it just shows you the difference, doesn't it, between spring sown and autumn sown. I mean, these are big birthers. They're going to be starting to pod up in another sort of 4 weeks or so, as opposed to these little ones, which I don't think they're going to come to much until July. We'll see. So the rest of this bed, I'm so excited, I'm beside myself. The rest of this bed doesn't look much at the moment. It will be fallow for another 4 weeks or so. But this is where the field beans have been turned in. And this is going to be my most radically different bed this year than I've ever done before. So I'm going to have TPs, tall TPs for, for squash. And then I'm going to underplant all of the rest of it with, on this side, lentils, and then over here, sort of salads, beetroot, spinach, chard, all sorts. But it's going to be my little sort of parterre garden with my squash going vertical. And then on this path here, either side, and that path either side, I'm going to be putting my bean poles up, so the beans can go up and over the path, so that the path is still usable, but it's not a waste of soil by having my beans in rows in the bed as I have done previously. Still getting some kale. Again, this bed, usually, this is going to be for parsnips this year, and I would usually think about sowing parsnips at the beginning of May. So it might be more like middle of May this year, so there's no hurry to have this sort out. Actually, look, some of them are sprouting, and I've been having the sprouts. Oh, that's really sprouted, but they're so beautiful, these sprouting tops. Yum, yum, yum. The rest of the bed, so that will be parsnips and calendula. Next door, a couple of rows of chickpeas, and then some rock and core beans, possibly another type of bean I've been given, and then bung a few fennel sort of in this area. And then the rest of it is the spuds. Look at these muddy trenches. Ay caramba. You know, we're not cold by any means at the moment, but we're just so soggy. And then look, what's this? What did I see when I arrived this morning? Yep, foxes. Look at the mess they've made. These pesky animals are doing my nut. So I don't even know if there's still a potato down there. Probably not. I've got a couple of spares. So I think what I'm going to have to do is fill that hole in, stick another spud in, and then somehow or other cover the spud trenches. You know, I do love foxes. I think they're beautiful animals, but I just wish they'd play in someone else's garden. Do you know what it is? I think it's because it's such lovely fine soil there, they just couldn't resist a dig. Grr. And then we come to the biggest change this year in many ways. So, oh look, I've got a few more labels waiting. Some of you who are on Facebook will have seen this is what I was doing yesterday because it was a rainy day. But the cold frame is empty and ready for use. Oh, it's not entirely empty. I've got some sweet peas and the lavender in there. But this bed, this is the one that I barely got dug in time for last summer. It needs quite a bit of work on it in terms of there's still some perennial weeds in there. I need to get a load of grit in at that end because that's going to be the more Mediterranean type herbs. But it's not a huge amount. I reckon a day's work should get this bed up and running. And then I've got all this gorgeous wood and trunks and stuff to start sort of cutting to size so I can make my teepees, and then hopefully the bendy bits for the tops of my arches. I have put feelers out for some more bendy bits from a couple of friends who are tree surgeons, begging for more bits. But yeah, I've managed to amass a really, really lovely stash of some really long straight trunks, which would be great. And then all the other little bits I'll mash together somehow, and but use my imagination and get using. And then of course my little fence and deck is finished. So now it's just a matter of, it's not a priority, but it will be a matter of, once I get my herbs going, I will also have some herbs for pots on the deck. So I've got some random collection of old pots they'll need holes drilling in them. I've got an old bucket there that actually does have a hole in. So I'm hoping that, I'm hoping that by the height of summer I can have loads of, sort of pots of herbs and bits and bobs on the deck, as well, of course, as having my climbing lovelies climbing all the way along the top. And look, I did pop a bit of bunting out the other day because I just couldn't stand the gloom anymore. Hurrah for bunting. Oh, and I've also started to hang my insect houses, because this is going to be a nice, quiet, sheltered space for them. And what I'm hoping to do, these two were gifts a couple of years ago, bought gifts. So what I'm hoping to do is, with masses and masses of scraps and offcuts of wood, I'm hoping to make a load more of my own to sort of fill this whole space in, so that it becomes just one massive insect houses. Yay! Insect house village. Hurrah! So, well, my goodness, my gracious, my me, as Mr. Fry might say, I think, now I don't want to jinx myself, but I think it's safe to say that I'm pretty much on top of my game and ready to start. I can't wait. So like I say, there's not much going to be going on out here on the soil itself, because it is wet and cold still. But I can get some stuff ready and get some stuff going in the cold frame, get more sewings done at home. And you know what? Fingers crossed, in a month's time, it'll be sunny and warm. If you think about it, a month ago, when we did the little garden tour, it was 4 or 5 inches of snow everywhere. So yeah, I'm keeping the faith. I'm optimistic that we're going to get some sunshine and warmth. And I can't wait. I cannot wait to see how the garden is going to grow and develop this year, with all the little changes I've got in mind and a few new veggies to try. Gosh, life's good, isn't it? Okay, before I implode with giddiness, I'm going to say cheerio. I hope whatever stage your garden is at, that you're not freaking out and panicking. Everything will catch up in the end, won't it? Main thing is, just enjoy it for what it is right now, and dream about what it's going to be in the summer. I'll see you all again really soon, I hope. But until then, take care, everyone.